Good day everyone and welcome back. Yes, I have covered this cross encounter, but if you'll just hear me out for just a moment, the cross encounter between 999 and 035 that you are all familiar with was the second take on that tale. The original had a completely different story with completely different drawings and audio and all that. Now that video didn't go down too well with the majority of the patrons and the members. Me and Sumerian pushed it a bit too far with that one, so I decided to can the video and write a new one. Now, some time has passed, so let's have a look at what might have been. A thank you to the patrons and the members for their support, and let's get started. Excerpt from SCP-035's updated SCP file. SCP-035 appears to be a white porcelain mask. It can change its appearance from smiling to frowning at will, and this effect extends to any other images of the object. Individuals coming into close contact with SCP-035 experience a strong urge to wear the item. A viscous liquid emits from the eyes and mouth of SCP-035, which can cause the degeneration of organic tissue. The roar of some distant monster rattled the lights of the containment chamber as D-2934, previously known as Jacob Marlin, looked around for something to defend himself with. He found a clipboard on the desk and picked it up. He didn't have the time to read the documentation clipped to it, so he had no idea that he was in the SCP-035 observation chamber. He held the clipboard up and waited for the door to cycle. He listened for the soft footsteps that had been following him for the past few minutes, but he heard nothing.
"Hello?"
came a voice from the adjoining containment chamber. Jacob looked over and saw a porcelain mask on the other side of the glass divider. The mask dripped black ooze from its eyes and mouth and floated in the air. It tapped on the glass. Jacob jumped back and held the clipboard up as if it would somehow help with his situation.
"Apologies for scaring you. I was hoping you could help me out. The door locked when I came in here and I can't open it from this side."
Jacob tilted his head to the side as the floating mask leaking black bile continued.
"Right, I know, I look suspicious."
Before Jacob could respond, he heard the footsteps again. He put a finger up to his mouth to quiet the mask and waited. The howling monster in the distance disturbed the silence. Jacob shivered but kept quiet. Both the mask and Jacob looked surprised as the door inside the containment chamber began to open. A bright orange light spilled into the chamber. The mask in the adjoining room screamed in horror. Then the whole world went orange, and Jacob fell to the floor. Documentation relating to SCP-035 revised testing protocols.
We've come to a worrying conclusion about SCP-035's effects. The documentation says that it causes immediate brain death. This has been the case in most situations. Our research has clearly indicated that it is not necessarily true for particularly strong-willed individuals. SCP-035 appears to overlay their personality, but take more than a few minutes to fully kill the host. Without some outside force to prevent it, SCP-035 will always win the battle of the wills. Dr. Stanford has approved a new testing protocol. We're going to take a strong-willed individual, have them put on SCP-035, and then expose them to a variety of other anomalies that should assist in breaking the bond before brain death. Then, we can find out exactly what goes on inside their mind. We're going to start with D-2934.
The man lying on the floor and wearing SCP-035 began to scream as SCP-999 pulled on his arm. The orange monster tried its hardest to shake the man from his nightmare. Jacob awoke to the sound of his own screaming. He reached up with his free hand and pulled the white mask off his face. He held it for just a moment, examining the fine line details, and then flung it across the room in an attempt to shatter it. It bounced off the wall and came to a stop at Jacob's feet. SCP-999 cooed softly at Jacob's side and gave it a small kick for good measure. The mask lay there for a moment before the whispers began. Jacob tried to close his eyes as he felt the pull of the anomaly once more, but no longer had eyelids. No face at all, really. The mask had dissolved it all away. Still, all he had to do was put the mask on and it would be fixed. Forever. There'd be no more pain or sadness. He should... SCP-999 rolled end over end and enveloped the mask. As it let go of Jacob's arm, the injured man began to whimper slightly from the pain, but SCP-999 was not able to hear him. Excerpt from SCP-999's updated SCP file. SCP-999 will interact more often with those who are experiencing negative emotions on a regular basis. It has a strong preference towards attempting to heal or assist in the treatment of those suffering from mental illnesses. It seems as though SCP-999 is drawn to suffering and is primarily interested in seeing that suffering end. The methods by which it does this are often quite basic. Tickling or basic companionship are frequent methods of treatment where applicable. SCP-999 will always respect personal boundaries if physical contact is an emotional or psychological trigger. But even so, there have been times when SCP-999's methods of treatment have been unorthodox.
What are you?
The floating mask hovered on the other side of a glass divider in front of the orange blob.
Orange goo. How quaint.
The orange blob's facial features lost their shine. What was once a constant smile and eager expression were suddenly sadder now. Darker.
Either way, everyone submits eventually. So, come on. Let me out of my cell. There's no point in struggling.
SCP-999 looked back with a stern face and said nothing.
How long do you plan to...
The blob raised a pseudopod and smashed through the glass wall separating them.
No! This is my mental construction! How did you...
And the orange blob rolled into the cell and enveloped the mask completely. Outside of the two entities' minds, the doctors were beginning to treat Jacob. The damage and blood loss were perhaps too severe to be survived, but they had to try. The mask on the ground rattled around inside of the orange blob and began to generate more and more black bile. SCP-999 was becoming cloudier and cloudier. Suddenly, it was nothing but pure black. Then SCP-999 fell apart, but as it did, the mask was gone too. The two SCPs dissolved into nothing but harmless black slime, which spread slowly across the floor. As Jacob Marlin released his last breath, a bit of orange slime he'd been holding in his right hand fell to the ground. It looked up at the doctors and the dying man and whimpered. Notes: while the cross-testing experiment was a success, percent of SCP-999's mass was destroyed in the process. Additionally, SCP-035 was also destroyed. Why SCP-999 decided to destroy SCP-035 instead of placating the object like it has with other anomalies in previous experiments is unknown. All interaction with SCP-999 now requires Level 4 approval. Dr. Stanford's hypothesis, Level 4 classified. This test actually birthed more questions about SCP-999 than it gave us answers to SCP-035's possession abilities. Given that the anomaly has now been destroyed, any further questions and musings on SCP-035 are completely inconsequential, but I digress. It is possible that when faced with a threat that SCP-999 takes a particular interest in stopping. It has the potential to not just stop it, but destroy the object entirely. Analysis of the residual black slime did not reveal any trace of SCP-035. It would also appear that during this state, everything else from caring for its current patient, if you like, to its own continued existence, is of secondary concern. This is both fascinating and also worrying. Such unbridled and undocumented destructive capability in an entity we encourage the staff to hug on a bad day. As I have said, we now have a lot more questions.
And that concludes this video. I bet a lot of you are happy that this one didn't become the actual one, aren't you? Discuss in the comments. Big thanks to Sim for writing this one, even if it didn't become the proper one, and to the patrons for their continued support and honest feedback. And thank you to Dude Punching a Bear, Sleepy Labith, Matthias, Minecraft Gamer, Luna Wilson, Guardian of Energy, Razman, Splendy the Tear God, Number of the East, Wings of a Meme, and Rick Traxon. Big thanks to the council members Luna, Tyson, Dr. Nightwraith, D-Tex, Bane, your local Foundation agent, Kikaran, Hunter Killer, Captain Core and Kibara. And huge thanks to the administrators, Aaron, Afro Interactive, Ryan Brenner, Techno Ninja, GFHD, Infinitune, Kamana, Viger, and Andre Bachert. Thank you all for watching, I'll see you all soon, and take care.